from that.
सासू को पकड़ो.
So we will just erase that from whatever Mr. Gandhi has given us. We will erase that from our mind, and then we will try and remember what the original one was, the intended one. But it's a slightly more extended one, and I don't remember the whole stanza on its own, but a few lines that I can think of. रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम.
रघुपति राघव राजा राम पतित पावन सीताराम.
सुंदर विग्रह मेघश्याम गंगा तुलसी शालग्राम.
सुंदर विग्रह मेघश्याम गंगा तुलसी शालग्राम.
सुंदर विग्रह मेघश्याम सुंदर विग्रह मेघश्याम गंगा तुलसी शालग्राम.
सुंदर विग्रह मेघश्याम गंगा तुलसी शालग्राम.
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे.
हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे.
जय हरि बोल. Okay. I thank all the devotees. Hare Krishna. I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces, but I'm also seeing a lot of new faces. I thank all the devotees here for the wonderful opportunity. And Adi Jagannath Prabhu, who is always trying to engage me in some service. Though I try to run away, but he's very kind to always, somehow he catches me and engages me in some service. Keeping the timelines in mind, I'm not going to extend it too long, but Ramayana and the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra, that one can never really stop. You can keep going on, and we can speak for hours together and days together and weeks together, and it's unending in that. So the spirit of Ramayana is like that. Okay. Should I think I will just hold the mic. Okay. So that's the spirit of Ramayana, that we never really stop speaking about Lord Ramachandra. We never stop hearing about Lord Ramachandra. But the few words, the few discussions that we will have today, we just hope that this will enable us, encourage us to continue to remember Lord Ramachandra eternally. In all phases of our life, all phases of our life, and all the challenges that we face in our life. The challenges cannot be greater than what Lord Ramachandra has faced in his during his pastimes. So we will discuss a few thoughts. One is, again, a question: who is the original author of Ramayana? Valmiki, right? Valmiki Muni. He is the original author. Now there are many versions of Ramayana, like Adhyatma Ramayana, Ananda Ramayana. In South India, you have Kamba Ramayana. Like that, there are so many different versions of Ramayana. Many of them are authorized, like the few that I've told you, are authorized. There is a Telugu version, Tamil, of course. Kamba Ramayana is the Tamil version, very beautiful. Um, there is a Gujarati version. There are many versions of Ramayana. So Ramayana is very popular, but uh, the root of any form of Ramayana, any version of Ramayana, including Tulsidas Ramayana, Ramcharitramanas, all of them, they fructify from one central point, and that is Valmiki Ramayana. So Valmiki is the fountainhead of any form of Ramayana that you see in the world today. He is the fountainhead. Any authorized version of Ramayana. There are some other versions also that people would have written and spoken about, which are not very authorized. So whenever we hear about Ramayana, we need to know, and we need to first verify that does it have its source in Valmiki Ramayana. The safest is always directly referring to Valmiki Ramayana. And there are some other authorized versions also that you can, if you are interested in studying further. Now, Valmiki Ramayana, can someone tell me how many verses are there in total? 24,000. There are 24,000 verses in Valmiki Ramayana, right? Originally, it is much more than 24,000. Right? Originally, it is Shatakoti, 100 crore verses of the glories of Lord Ramachandra, as compiled by Lord Brahma himself. So Lord Brahma has compiled Ramayana with 100 crore verses. And these are, we have no access to those verses, probably because we don't have the capacity to assimilate and understand these wonderful pastimes. We just know the few pastimes of Lord Ramachandra that people would have probably heard mostly from TV serials and not really listening to the original Ramayana. Even in that, you can see that there are so many controversies, and they try and find fault in Lord Ramachandra himself, Purushottama. There is nobody greater than him. There is nobody more perfect than him in character. But the people of this world are so amazing in their character that we can find faults in Lord Ramachandra only, right? So probably we don't deserve even those 24,000 which Valmiki Muni has given us, because even with the little access that we have, we commit so many offenses to the Sri Charana of Lord Ramachandra. But still, by the mercy of the wonderful acharyas, we have some access, and we have understood Ramayana a little bit, as much as our acharyas have revealed to us. Nothing beyond that. So anything that we are discussing today, anything that we can, anything that inspires you, anything that you find that you can take back with you, is something that I have heard from other devotees and I'm sharing with you. And if I make any mistakes while I'm speaking of anything that is wrong, they are entirely mine. So you can blame me for that. So anything good that I'm speaking is something that I've heard from other devotees. Okay. So this Ramayana, the original one by Lord Brahma, 100 crore verses, were passed on to his disciple, Sri Narada Muni. And you can see, if you look at the kind of disciples that Narada Muni has, some of the greatest devotees in the universe that have ever existed were disciples of Narada Muni. He is such an exalted personality, and another misunderstood personality. Thanks to the TV serials and movies those days, they portray him in such a way, in such a very offensive manner, like some comical character. But when we read the Shastras and you understand the position of Narada Muni, we will understand that he's such an exalted personality, a person who gives knowledge and bhakti of Narayana to others is called Narada. That's the very meaning of his name, Narada. And Narada Muni. The word Muni, we hear different sages There are words like Muni, there are words like Rishi. So all these names are there that are given to certain yogis. Each word has a different meaning. The meaning of the word Muni originates, if you look at the etymology, it originates from the word Mauna, someone who does not speak. So people who follow the Mauna Vrata, they are known as Munis. But a more exalted version of the Mauna Vrata, explained to us by Srila Prabhupada, is that one who only speaks about the glories of the Lord. He is a true Mauni. So from the word Mauna, Mauni, comes the word Muni, because Narada does not speak anything else but the glories of Narayana, the glories of Krishna. So that Narada Muni, he meets Valmiki, who is another great Muni, is one of his great exalted disciples. And he speaks to Valmiki Muni and he reveals Ramayana as he heard from Lord Brahma. He reveals that to Valmiki Muni. But he reveals only 24,000. There is another version that says that he reveals about 18,000. Some version says that he revealed 24,000, but told Valmiki Muni to write Ramayana, put it into writing, and write only about 18,000. For some reason, he chose 18,000. But it is said that Valmiki Muni could not stop writing after 18,000. That's the beauty of Ramayana. He just couldn't stop. He said, how can I stop? I cannot. And he had to keep going on and on and on. And somewhere he jammed his brakes at 24,000. The original intention was 18,000, like that. So Narada Muni told him to compile it. And Valmiki Muni, every day, even though an exalted Vaishnava himself, and very scholarly and very capable, yet he was constantly praying to the Supreme Lord. And he was praying and asking the Supreme Lord that my spiritual master has given me a great task. He has given me a task of writing the glories of Lord Ramachandra, but I'm so unqualified. When I just look at my own qualities, I just see that I have no qualifications. How can someone like me, write the glories of Lord Ramachandra? So looking at, this is the attitude of a disciple. Any one of us here who consider ourselves as disciples to a spiritual master, we need to really recalibrate, really think about it, reflect, and think that, are we really disciples? Do I really have the qualities of a disciple? Because with great pride we say that I am a disciple of so and so, but do I really have those qualities? That is something that we have to honestly reflect and think about it. Our spiritual master may be a very qualified person, but am I qualified to call myself his disciple if I don't hold back in taking credit, in taking honor in every situation? Right? I have to really think about these things, because someone like Valmiki Muni, who's so qualified, is there and he is wondering, how am I able to do this? I don't think I will be able to write a single word. How do I please my guru, Narada Muni? And he prays to the Supreme Lord in this way. And finally, with the blessings of the Supreme Lord, he starts compiling. And in a kavya form, he starts compiling the Ramayana very beautifully. And there is no other version that is more beautiful than the one that Valmiki Muni has given us. There are other beautiful versions too, but Valmiki Muni, like we discussed, is the fountainhead of all other versions of Ramayana. So we will talk about a few personalities from Ramayana, as I have heard from other devotees. And I'm just sharing, just so that we can inspire ourselves. It's inspirational for me also when I remember these personalities. So just sharing a few thoughts. Some of you may have already heard some of these pastimes, but they can never be exhausted. We can never really get tired of hearing them. Doesn't matter how many times we hear them again and again. So those were a few thoughts about Valmiki Muni. Now this Valmiki Muni, when he started writing the Ramayana, there are some portions of the Vedas, actually it's mentioned in the Vedas also, it is said that there were many devatas who appeared in the form of monkeys. So the monkeys that we see, the Vanara Sena, they were not ordinary monkeys. There were many devatas who appeared, and even before Lord Ramachandra could appear, many of them appeared. Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry, I just heard that some of you may not have heard very clearly. Okay. Is this okay? So, even before Lord Ramachandra came, there were many devatas who appeared in the form of monkeys, many personalities appeared. Not all the monkeys, not all the Vanaras. And the word monkey is a word that we're using because there's no better word to describe those entities in English language. But Vanara is a slightly different species. They're not exactly the monkeys that we see today in Vrindavan and other places. If you visit, they're very famous monkeys there. But this species is slightly different. Like we have seen some images and all that. Their behavior is very much similar to that of monkeys, but they are also like human beings, very knowledgeable. They're well read. They study the shastras. They can speak. Right? Like the monkeys we see today, they cannot speak really, or they don't speak human language. But the Vanaras were different. So that's a different species that still exists. Probably not here on this planet. They may be there in some place. We don't know, but at least they're not visible to the human eye today, but they're certainly there. The Shastras explain that there is another planet called Kim Purusha Loka. So in Kim Purusha Loka, you'll have these personalities, and Hanumanji himself resides there. But Hanumanji is there everywhere. Wherever you speak the glories of Lord Ramachandra, Hanumanji is present there, which means he is present here also amongst us. So, while the different devatas appeared to serve Lord Ramachandra, even the four Vedas, they told Lord Brahma that what are we doing here? Lord Ramachandra is going to arrive, and we also need some service. We also need to go there. So the four Vedas appeared, they incarnated as Ramayana. So when you study the Ramayana, there is no need to study anything else. Anybody who's interested in studying the four Vedas, if you have read the Ramayana, you have studied the four Vedas. Because the essence of the four Vedas are there in Ramayana. So nothing else is needed for a person who has studied Ramayana, who is reading and studying and understanding the pages of Ramayana. So help me with a little bit of mathematics here. It is said that these 100 crore verses of Ramayana, apart from Narada Muni, it was also passed on to another great exalted personality, Lord Shiva. Now, Lord Shiva had access to these 100 crore verses. Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambho. Looking at these 100 crore verses, you see, a Vaishnava cannot keep anything with themselves. If they get some kind of wealth or something, they just want to give it away to others, because they feel when their heart is moved when they see people of this world, and they feel that, why am I keeping this? Let me give it away to them. And when we look at the personality of Lord Shiva, he's like that. Look at what he wears. Right? He has no wealth. Anything that he has, he just gives it away. So he doesn't like to possess anything. He keeps giving it away. So when he had access to these 100 crore verses, he thought, now I have studied these 100 crore verses, but the people of this world are suffering. The people of this universe are suffering. And they need to hear the glories of Lord Ramachandra. So let me give it away to them. So there are, largely speaking, the entire cosmos is divided to three. The upper planetary systems, the middle planetary systems, and the lower planetary systems. So these 100 crore verses, Lord Shiva divided them. He gave 33 crore verses to the upper planetary systems. He gave 33 crore verses to the middle planetary systems. And he gave 33 crore verses to the lower planetary systems. Now, how much does he have left? He has 1 crore, right? So now Parvati Devi was there, and his good wife, and she looked at Lord Shiva and she said, "Happy? You gave away everything?" And he said, "Yes, yes, I'm happy." Now these 1 crore, can we at least keep it to ourselves? He said, "Yeah, yeah, sure." But then what am I just going to do with this 1 crore? Why don't we just distribute that also? And then he distributed even that, right? So how do we distribute the 1 crore? He gave away 33 lakh verses again to the upper planetary system, 33 lakh to the middle planetary system, and 33 lakh to the lower planetary system. How much is he left with? He is left with 1 lakh, right? Now, with this 1 lakh, he says, okay, 1 lakh. Parvati said, just keep it. This we can have. And then he said, yeah, but 1 lakh versus so many living entities in this universe. Let me give that away also. So that 1 lakh verses, he gave away 33,000 up there, 33,000 to the middle, and 33,000 to the lower. How much is he left with? He is left with 1,000, right? Then he gives away 333 to the upper planetary systems, 333 to the middle, 333 to the lower. Now how much is he left with? He is left with 1. Parvati said, Haribol, Prabhuji, please, this 1 verse you can keep with yourself, right? So Lord Shiva said, yes, 1. Then Lord Shiva was thinking again, so he thought again, 1 full verse I have with me. Now if I really look at this 1 verse, there are different, if you study the Vedas and the different meters, the whole Ramayana is written in Anushtup Chandaha. Right? So in this Anushtup Chanda, there are 4 lines in this particular verse, 4 lines, and 8 syllables in each line. Right? 8 syllables are there. So he thought 4 lines, 4 into 8 is how many? 32. Right? So there are 32 verses. So he thought 32 syllables are there. 32 syllables. What am I going to do with 32? Let me distribute this also. Right? So he gave 10, 10, 10. Now he's left with 2 syllables. Right? And Parvati said, please, now you can't divide this 2 anymore. So can we just keep this? He said, this I will keep. Because these two syllables are Ra and Ma, right? Rama. And he said that the entire Ramayana is there in these 2 syllables, Rama. And there is nothing else that is required. Just by reciting the names of Rama, we have studied the entire Ramayana. That is the beauty of the name of Sri Ramachandra. So when we see this very beautiful pastime of the bridge being built from India to Lanka, right? And how those stones were floating after the names of Lord Ramachandra were written and recited, and how the stones were floating. These names are not just any name. This is the name of Lord Ramachandra. And this name, Ra and Ma, Rama, is the essence of the whole Ramayana. And the whole of Ramayana is the essence of all the Vedas. Right? So it's no ordinary name. So just by reciting the name of Lord Ramachandra, we have got the essence of the whole of Ramayana. But it does not mean that we should not study the Ramayana. We should certainly study it. Otherwise, we will not understand the name of Lord Ramachandra. So in order to understand the name of Lord Ramachandra, we must study the scriptures authorized from a Guru Parampara. So, from these names in the Ramayana, now if we think of a few personalities, one is Bharata, the brother of Lord Ramachandra. Now, we know many things that happened at some point. Now, this particular episode, when Mother Kaikeyi asks Ramachandra to leave the kingdom and go away, and Bharata was not there at that point. And when he says that, "No, you please go away," and she was in a hurry because she didn't want Bharata to come, because she knew that if Bharata comes, he's not going to let Lord Ramachandra go. So you please go as soon as possible. Maharaj Dasharatha has also given his order, and Lord Ramachandra was wondering, oh, really? And he met his father, and his father did not tell him anything. And in fact, he told his father that I'm leaving, and I'm leaving today. His father told him, did not know what to tell him, but he just, with a few words, he said, can you at least stay for one day? You don't have to go now. You can just stay for one day, because this very nice kingdom, you can sleep on the silk robes, and I will make sure all your favorite dishes are cooked today, and you can eat everything, and you can rest very nicely on the soft beds, the silken beds, and enjoy the kingdom and Lord Ramachandra just paid his obeisances, and he says, no, I have to go now. And Dasharatha asks, why? Why now? Why right now? Why not tomorrow? And his heart was broken. He was a broken man. The moment he heard about this, he was a broken man. Lord Ramachandra was thinking of Mother Kaikeyi, and he was saying, look at her, she's in so much of anxiety, and she's worried. If I stay one more day, she may be thinking that maybe Ramachandra is going to be planning or scheming to somehow usurp the kingdom, and tomorrow, urgently they will do a Pattabhisheka even before Bharata comes, and she was, in constant anxiety. And Ramachandra he wanted to relieve her of that anxiety. And he says, don't worry. And he told Mother Kaikeyi, you didn't even have to ask Maharaj Dasharatha for those 3 boons and remind him of all that. You didn't have to do anything. You didn't even have to tell him. You just had to come and tell me. And I would not even ask you for any reason. Just tell me that you go, and I would have just gone. Why 14 years? I'll just go forever if you want me to. That is the character of Lord Ramachandra. So, of course, Lakshmana followed, and Lord Ramachandra did not want him to follow. He said, no, you should stay here and take care of the kingdom. And he said, you are my life. Lakshmana said, you are my life. And if I don't see you, that moment I will die. Even as a baby, it is said that when the 4 babies were kept next to each other, Lakshmana would cry if he was carried away from Ram Lalla, the baby, Lord Ramachandra. He would cry, he would weep. So he always had to be kept right next to Ramachandra. That is Lakshmana. And Lakshmana was also newly married, and his wife also said that I will also come along. How can I stay here? But he said no, because it's for 14 long years, and I'm going there to serve the Lord. And if there is some kind of distraction, and if I'm distracted because of you, because I'll have to take care of you, it's a forest. It's not a palace. There could be wild animals, there could be rakshasas, all kinds of creatures, and I'm there to take care of them at all times. And if you're along with me, I may be distracted, and if something happens to them, I'll never be able to forgive myself. So for the service of Ramachandra, you should also stay here in the kingdom. And being very obedient to Lakshmana, she agreed, and she said, certainly, I will be here. But Lakshmana said, there is something that I want you to do for me. I want you to sleep for me. She said, how? You see, we don't have access to one personality called Nidra Devi. Though she comes and visits us every day, even during classes and other times, she comes and visits us. We don't see her. Lakshmana has access. Lakshmana can see her. And she's a personality. She's a Devi who's in charge of all our sleep. So in certain yogis who study Ashtanga Yoga, they also recommend for people who cannot sleep that they can just call Nidra Devi, Nidra Devi, Nidra Devi. You call and you fall asleep, but there's a certain process. Don't try it now, please. I'd like you to be awake. Okay. So there is a process for people who cannot sleep. You just call and then you can fall asleep. So he invited her and he told her, please look, I cannot sleep for 14 years. And she said, "Are you kidding? 14 years you don't want to sleep?" And but I have to pass this on to someone. And he said, you can pass it on to my wife, and she will sleep my share as well. So she said, okay, I will pass it on. And for 14 years, Lakshmana's wife slept not just her share, but also her husband's share. Right? That's a nice service to do, no? If someone wants to be awake, yeah, I'll sleep for you, Prabhu. Nice service to you. Or eat for you, you can do something like that. So she did that very nice service for him. And in this way, Lakshmana was awake. For 14 years, he didn't sleep a wink. Even in the night, when Lord Ramachandra and Mother Sita are sleeping, he would sit on top of the hut, wide awake, alert, looking out for any animals, snakes, scorpions. He was always alert at all times. He never slept. So this was Lakshmana. Lakshmana represents Guru or Guru Tattva. Right? I started off with Bharata. I will go back to Bharata later, but I'll just, now that we're in the flow, I will speak about Lakshmana and then move on to Bharata. This Lakshmana, there are so many details that so many wonderful things that we can speak about Lakshmana. But a few things that I'd like to highlight about his character is that one is that when the deer episode, right, Maricha, when the Rakshasa called Maricha, he appeared in the form of a golden deer. And Mother Sita, she looked at the golden deer and she said, I want that deer. Usually in ashramas, there are deers and rabbits and all that. So she said, I want that deer, let that deer be here with us. And the deer just seemed to appear and disappear. And Mother Sita said, oh, it's such a wonderful creature and I want that creature. So Ramachandra said, forget it, why, there's so many creatures that come and go. It looks little suspicious. And she said, no, it's really cute and I want it. So then Ramachandra said, okay, fine, I'll go get it for you. But he knew there was something, and a Kshatriya never moves around without weapons. And that's how he carries his bow and his arrow. The reason I'm telling you this is some people make accusations that, look, Lord Ramachandra was carrying a bow and arrow to go and kill a deer, which means he hunted in the forest. No, he did not hunt in the forest. And some people claim that he probably ate meat in the forest, which is a completely wrong understanding, and there is no such. By the way, even if he does, whatever he can do, whatever he does is completely authorized. He's Bhagavan. He can do anything he wants to. But Ramayana, clearly there is no indication that he ate anything like that. In fact, his diet is also mentioned in Ramayana of what he exactly ate. And there are certain circumstances, when guests like Jatayu is a non-vegetarian, he's a vulture, right? So he would eat meat. And when he came once and he met Lord Ramachandra and Sita Devi, he was very hungry. And Lakshmana gave him berries and fruits. And, Jatayu said, I don't eat berries and fruits, I only eat meat. And at that point, Lord Ramachandra said, I'm sorry, in our ashrama we don't serve that. And Sita Devi, being a great host, she said that nobody can go hungry. If you have come to Lord Ramachandra, you cannot go hungry. You eat meat, right? Well, we can't give you meat, but we'll find something in between. And Sita Devi offered him mushrooms and jackfruit, which kind of has a similar texture. So it's vegetarian, but it feels like it's non-vegetarian. So she's a great host. So she found a way to satisfy her guest who came at that point. So there was a time, that's how Jatayu later remembers who Sita Devi is, because he has already seen her before. So, so this Lakshmana, after Lord Ramachandra chases the deer and goes away, Lakshmana was there, and this Maricha, before dying, he shouts, mimicking the voice of Lord Ramachandra. He had certain siddhis, so he mimicked the voice of Lord Ramachandra and he said, help, Lakshmana, please help me, I'm in trouble. Rakshasas are attacking me. And Sita Devi heard that and she said that, hey, Lord Ramachandra is in trouble, please go immediately. Go immediately and protect him. And Lakshmana said, no, no, this is Lord Ramachandra. No, he can gobble the entire universe if he wants to. Nothing can happen to him. Don't worry. And that this is some ploy by some asuras, so don't fall for all that. And she said, no, 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 you must. But he wouldn't go. Now, to somehow make him go, she used some very harsh words. She made some very harsh comments. And she said that maybe you want him to die. Maybe you have some intentions and intentions on me, and that's why you want him to die. And for Lakshmana at that moment, whose very life is Sita and Rama, he just broke, and he said that no, please don't say anything else. I will go immediately. This is how some versions say that Ramcharitra mentions that he drew a Lakshman Rekha, but Valmiki Ramayana says that there is no Lakshman Rekha was not actually drawn. That episode is not there in Valmiki Ramayana at least, but there are some other versions that mention it. So maybe there, may not be there. So we're just sticking to Valmiki Ramayana right now. But he suggests to her that you please don't step out of this hut. Please don't go anywhere. Don't go looking. I will go and bring Lord Ramachandra immediately. But please don't go. So she says, okay. And then Lord Lakshmana leaves. And then we know what happens. That Ravana comes in the form of a sadhu. He comes and then he kidnaps Sita Devi. That's another episode on its own. But what happened here was, after being accused by Sita Devi, he goes and meets Lord Ramachandra on the way. And Lord Ramachandra says, hey, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be there protecting the ashrama. And where is Sita? She's alone. How can you leave her? It's a dangerous place. And he said, okay, let's go there. But, she asked me to come here looking for you. He says, there's just one thing that I tell you to do and you can't do that. If it was someone like me, probably I would have given a list of services that I've already done. I haven't slept for so many years, and I'm cooking and I'm sitting on top of the hut, but not Lakshmana, right? Lakshmana is not me. So Lakshmana just nodded his head and he said, yes, I'm incompetent. I'm really sorry. Let's go back immediately. And Lord Ramachandra was furious with him. Somebody questioned his character, and someone else questioned his competence. But Lakshmana stood steadfast in his services and did not give up his services. He continued to serve. No complaints, no saying, what your wife just told me, or nothing like that. He just continued his seva. Right? I'm just imagining what I would have done in a situation like that. Right? So that is probably my words. But then not Lakshmana for sure. That's why he's exalted. That's why he's someone we worship today. So later on, this episode, we know what happened. To establish his position as a guru, another incident was that when Lord Ramachandra met Sugriva, right here in Karnataka, he met Sugriva. And Sugriva, he made a deal with Lord Ramachandra. He said, you and me are friends now, and you help me kill Vali, and I will help you find Sita Devi, who has been kidnapped. We will go to Lanka. They didn't know about Lanka then. We will go find this Asura wherever he is hidden in the universe. And Sugriva had the talent of traveling the entire cosmos. He could go to any part of the universe, nook and corner. He knew everything, the address, no GPS. He was the original GPS, perhaps. He could find any part of the universe. How? Because he was running away from Vali, right? And there was no place Vali couldn't come. So he would go to every corner of the universe, and he knew where exactly to hide, all the nooks and corners of the universe. He could travel. So this was Sugriva. So they made a deal. They said, okay, great. And he put a garland around Lord Ramachandra. He gave a seat to Lord Ramachandra, put a garland around him. And he said that from today we are friends, partners. Right? So Ramachandra said, okay, so go attack your Vali and I will come and kill him. So he went and he goes and he attacks Vali, challenges Vali, gone, good fight. Then Vali comes yawning, he says, okay, you're crazy, okay, let's get into a fight. And they get into a very long duel, and Vali beats the hell out of Sugriva. And Sugriva comes back bleeding profusely. And he says, Lord Ramachandra, why? We were friends, you were supposed to kill Vali, and what happened? And Ramachandra said, I couldn't find the difference between you and Vali. Both of you looked exactly the same. Right? They looked exactly the same. So he said, both of you are exactly the same, so I couldn't find any difference. And then Sugriva said, what is this? I mean, you should have told me earlier. Ramachandra said, sorry, we'll figure out something else. But why did this happen? Someone may say, Lord Ramachandra, if he is Bhagavan, how can he not recognize? That it's a very simple thing. How can he not recognize? Nothing is impossible for him. But he wanted to make a point, which Sugriva later understood. You see, earlier when he was putting a garland around Ramachandra, he ignored Lakshmana. He did not offer a seat to Lakshmana. Lakshmana is Guru Tattva. Without Guru, there is no Bhagavan. So without acknowledging Lakshmana, going directly to Ramachandra is not allowed. Ramachandra says that if you don't have a guru, if you're not blessed by a guru, if you don't worship your guru, then there is no difference between you and another jiva, an ordinary jiva, even if you are worshipping me. This is why he said that I did not find any difference between you and Vali. Because there is no difference for Ramachandra between any jiva, human, dog, cat, bird, snake, anybody. Lord Ramachandra sees no difference. But he identifies the difference when a jiva accepts a guru. And he says that you are my guru, and through you I will understand Lord Ramachandra. That's when Ramachandra recognizes and he says, okay, you are different. I will protect you. And at this point, when he recognized and he offered a garland to Lakshmana, offered him a seat, and said that, please forgive me for my ignorance earlier. And Lakshmana, he says, okay, I accept it. And he takes his garland and puts it around Sugriva. And wearing the garland of Guru Lakshmana, he goes to battle Vali, and he sees, Lord Ramachandra sees the difference because of the garland and says, now I can find out who is who. And then he kills Vali. Right? So this Ramayana is so beautiful. Sometimes we just understand it like some story we've heard through serials, but it's very important to understand the inner meanings, and that cannot be understood without the intervention of a guru. Right? Like when we hear from Valmiki, when we hear from other acharyas, then we understand that, okay, there are so many different meanings to one simple incident that we have heard. Right? Sorry, how much time do I have? Are we... Okay, there's nobody to tell me the time. I'll continue till they come and stop me. So this was Lakshmana. And then is going back to Bharata, great personality, another wonderful Vaishnava, who represents Tyaga or renunciation. He represents renunciation. Lakshmana represents Guru, and Bharata represents renunciation. The entire kingdom was his, and he told Lord Ramachandra that I will keep your padukas on the Simhasana, and you will continue to be the king, and I will simply serve. Whatever duties are to be done, I will do that. And he did his duties wonderfully. But you see, the whole of Ayodhya, they accused, they doubted Bharata, and they said that it's you. You have influenced your mother, and this is how this whole thing happened. Ramachandra would have been here, and it's because of your desire to become the king that our Ramachandra is not with us anymore. They accused him. They hated him. They would use abusive words when they would even see him. Not because he was frustrated with the Ayodhya Vasis, but personally he did not want to create any anxiety in the minds of Ayodhya Vasis, and this is why he stayed outside on the outskirts of Ayodhya. He found a small place in the forest, and he made a hut there, and he stayed in that hut, so as to not disturb the Ayodhya Vasis. It is said that He used to take bath very early in the morning, around 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock in the morning. He used to go to the Sarayu river and take bath there, because the Ayodhya Vasis also would come to take bath around 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. And if they see Bharata, they would take a stone and throw it on Bharata. You're the enemy of Rama, they would throw a stone. Prabhu, sorry, how much time do I have? Okay. Okay, if I can wind up if you tell me to.
Yeah, after Bharata and
Oh.
Shatrugana is left.
Yeah,
Right?
okay. Then I will. Okay, thank you. So, this is Bharata, right? So he didn't. He thought, these Ayodhya Vasis will throw a stone, and they would, early morning, don't want to see me, and yet, they're around. I don't want to disturb them. Don't want them to have a bad day by looking at me. So I will stay away. He had a sword. He was the acting king at that point. He could have punished anybody, right? He could have put people in their place. He could have done all of that. But announced a curfew or whatever happens these days. But not him. He said, okay, I will just stay away from them. I don't want to disturb them. So this is Bharata. It is said that whenever Lord Ramachandra would sit on the Simhasana, Bharata would sit on a lower platform next to him. But now Ramachandra is not on a Simhasana. He's walking on earth. He's walking on the surface of earth. And he said that I cannot be on the same platform as that of Ramachandra. So he dug the ground. He dug a pit, and he would sit there and he would worship Ramachandra, because he always wanted to be on a lower platform. That is Bharata. And he told Ramachandra that 14 years, dear brother, 14 years, if you're delayed by even one day, I will die. I will throw myself into fire. If someone wants to learn time management, you really have to study Ramayana to see how Lord Ramachandra managed so many things, and he had to be on time, but he was a little late, by the way, Lord Ramachandra, and that's why, thankfully, he had Hanuman, the great messenger, and he said, hey, go and stop him, he's going to jump into fire. So Hanumanji quickly came, the original guru of time management. So he came, and this is Bharata. But now comes Shatrugna. Shatrugna, the meaning of the word Shatrugna is someone who can defeat all his enemies. And how many asuras did Shatrugna kill in his entire lifetime? One, right? One. For a person who has killed one Rakshasa, such a powerful name, Shatrugna. Because it's not about killing external enemies. We have greater asuras living within us. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Mada, Matsarya. We have so many great, powerful demons who have subdued us today. As of today, we've been subdued by them. But Shatrugna has defeated all of them. And that's why he is Shatrugna. External enemies are Jujubi. Right? They're nothing for him. The four brothers were so mighty, nobody in the universe could conquer them. But Shatrugna has defeated the enemies within. That's why he is Shatrugna. So this Shatrugna, Bharata was staying outside the village. Once in a while he would get yelled at by the Ayodhya Vasis. But Shatrugna, somebody had to be there, right, on the field, and that was Shatrugna. And he was getting accused and abused every day. People would not listen to him. But he would continue to serve anyway. He would get yelled at, but he would continue to serve. He would go, he would meet Bharata, and he would ask Bharata, what should I do, what should I not do? There is this problem and that problem, how do I do that? And Bharata would tell him, do this, do that. Some army is trying to attack, and then he would say, okay, go and do this, do that. So in this way, Bharata would guide him, and Shatrugna would continue to do his duty. That's a greater sacrifice. But what Bharata was doing was great. What Shatrugna was doing was even more greater. But generally, when we hear about these personalities, we don't really hear about them in detail. Shatrugna, we hardly hear about anything about Shatrugna. Bharata, maybe a little bit. Nothing at all about Shatrugna, unfortunately. But there are so many wonderful things about these personalities. And I haven't spoken much about Hanumanji, because if we start speaking about Hanumanji, then I don't know, till the end of the world, we can continue to speak about this wonderful personality. But Hanumanji, so that he's here, I know, wherever you speak about the glories of Lord Ramachandra, Hanumanji is also there. So just remembering him, that Sita Devi is Shatrughna represents service, duties, performing duties. Sita Devi represents bhakti. How did she go away from Ramachandra? The moment she had a desire for the golden deer. There are many golden deers in our lives. So many things that allure us, that take us away from the thoughts of Ramachandra. Right? So that is something that Sita Devi showed us, that she represents bhakti, but when bhakti is slightly distracted, then we go away. We go away from Ramachandra. But who comes as a messenger to protect us, to bring in the news of Ramachandra? And that is Hanumanji. And Hanumanji also represents a guru. What a guru actually does is that he connects the jiva to Purusha. He connects the jiva to Paramatma. And he comes and tells the jiva, I know you're crying to meet the Supreme Lord, but guess what? The Supreme Lord, Bhagavan, is also crying for you. He also wants to meet you. That's the messenger. That's the role that Hanumanji plays for us. So there is so much more. Just like Valmiki Muni couldn't stop writing at 18,000 and he continued for 24,000. There is so much more that we can speak. But I will leave the rest to your consciousness, to our consciousness, that with these few words, let's remember these great personalities. And when we accept Lord Ramachandra in our lives, then it is truly Ramarajya. You see, in politics today, they will talk about Ramarajya, but they don't really talk about Ramachandra so much. They say that we want to establish Ramarajya because Ramarajya was perfect. There was no famine, there was no dearth of wealth. It was all there, right? Economically, everybody was no bad health. Everybody lived a perfect life. Everybody wants Ayodhya. Everybody wants a perfect Ramarajya, but nobody really talks about Ramachandra. Let's remember that if we want the Shakti of Rama and not Rama, then it is exactly what Ravana did. So if we want Ramarajya, we first need to accept Lord Ramachandra into our hearts and become soldiers of Ramachandra and defend Lord Ramachandra. And that is our duty. Right? So on this note, Sita Ram Lakshmana Hanuman Ji ki Jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय. निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे. हरि हरि बोल. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So there are always, for a happy ending of a movie, there has to be a villain. Then it's more happier. I was playing the role of that. I'm not a villain that much. I also like to hear. But then we have some more things to do. So I had to stop, Prabhu. Please forgive me. So let us thank Prabhu for such an enlightening class. Can we chant one time and thank Prabhu? Hare Krishna loudly, please. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So you know what, when, you know drunkards? Okay, some people are saying, why are you saying drunkard? So the first time you take something, right, you get intoxicated, like you like it. And the next time you want to get that taste. Then he keeps going to the bar again and again and again. So he got us intoxicated today. So we have to keep coming again and again and again to get intoxicated. So we'll keep coming, but you have to come to give us, to intoxicate us. So we'll request Prabhu that you should plan that you can come and just intoxicate us sometimes, that we get intoxicated with such love for Ram, and more specifically Shatrughan, I think. Yeah, that will be very nice, Prabhu. And Mataji should please put our pleas to him. So that's the easier way. So we'll wait for your next visit to Bangalore, Prabhu. Okay, so now what do we do, devotees? We have to do Abhishek. So we'll do it in a little systematic way. So the first systematic thing is Asha Prabhu has to come here. Asha Prabhu will do his kirtan.